This is going to make you mad.
Nothing can make me mad. I'm in a phenomenal mood.
Well, I'm mad.
Oh. I'm angry, Jeff.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Just going.
And I mean, like, that kind of mad. Like, everything's cool, but like, oh, God.
I've only seen you really mad twice. Both times my fault, for the record.
By the way, my fault. Totally. I am going to read the way that this came out, and then I'm going to take it a step further. Okay? Ready?
Do it.
All right. Susan Slusser just tweeted 11 minutes ago, Hayden Birdsong appears to be getting sent out.
End of tweet?
Mm-hmm.
Like sent out of the room? Like
they're sending Hayden Birdsong down. Can confirm. They're sending him down a day after he struck out 12 in 6 innings.
I can see why. He didn't share the ball enough. He didn't allow his fielders to field, Mark. That's selfish baseball.
Look, I would imagine that he's going to be back this weekend. They're probably doing some sort of numbers, hijinks, what have you. He's got options. They've got 8 games in 7 days. Robbie Ray's coming back. Who knows? Maybe Alex Cobb will too. I don't know what Mason Black is doing this weekend or any of that. I don't know. Maybe Eric Miller will get an opener day. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. Okay? But the roster's going to get stretched. 8 games in 7 days. They probably want more relievers. So they're sending Hayden Birdsong down, and he'll probably be back this weekend. ... I don't really care. This is a crappy look. This is the kind of stuff that makes the clubhouse not like the front office. They don't like him. The dugout people have been known to just point up and refer to those guys.
Up there.
Those guys.
Upstairs.
Those guys don't really know what they're doing. Okay? That's a thing right now. And it's not unique to the Giants. Hell, there was a movie about it. It was called Moneyball.
Oh, I thought you were going to go to Major League.
No.
Major League is similar, where the owner was like openly trying to get them to lose.
Yeah, but who was the first baseman who was like, I'm putting him in the lineup tonight? He's like, you're not putting him in the lineup tonight. He goes, yes, I am. He's in the lineup. He goes, no, he's not. He plays for Cleveland.
Was that Hillebrand? No.
Somebody.
Maybe not.
I forget. No, wasn't it, was it Pena? It might have been Pena. I can't remember. But anyway, somebody texted in who was the first baseman that Art Howe wanted to play, and then Brad Pitt traded him. That one. That happens in Major League Baseball. Happens to the Giants.
Yeah, Carlos Pena.
There you go.
Yeah,
it happens to the Giants a lot. And I bet today's one of those days. Because you have to, this has Luis Matos feel all over it again. When you've got a young player, and I bet that the Giants, at least I hope with every muscle in my body that the Giants looked directly at Hayden Birdsong and went, okay, listen, I know that this is a bummer, but here's what we're doing, and we will call you back on Friday. Meet us in San Francisco, or for all I know, they're just putting him in a hotel in L.A. for 4 days. Just don't come to the game. You can be over there in a hotel. We're not sending you to SAC or AA or wherever because you're not going to pitch again because we need you this weekend. I hope they did that.
Susan Slusser points out that he can easily be added on Saturday because you get an extra player for doubleheaders. So it's likely that he is the added player and he comes in and he pitches on Saturday anyway. But for what you're saying, you're absolutely right. It's the optics of it. The guy strikes out 12 and really makes his biggest splash among a fan base that's still trying to get to know him. Pitches great, and your reward is a bus ticket.
You asked me who the hell would they be calling up, and I joked.
No, you didn't get it right.
Break. I got it right. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to your fancy new cash considerations reliever, Michael Baumann. Has a locker at Dodger Stadium.
Baumann. Bowman?
Maybe.
Bauman.
Who knows?
So what was the corresponding 40-man roster move? Do we know that?
No, they only had 39 at acquisition. So they had a spot for Michael.
Yeah. You never know with this roster.
Who knows?
That 40-man roster is very
DFA'd
malleable.
Ramos. I don't know. I mean, honestly, like, where is the human being?
Sacramento. That's where the human being is. Hayden Birdsong. Get to know you. How can we get to know you? You struck out 12 with a filthy curve in Colorado, and your reward? Yeah, we're all flying to L.A. You're going to fly to Sacramento. There's a stopover in Reno. Boom, you're now free to fly around the country. Sorry about that, HB.
Like, is there no value to Hayden being in the dugout so he could stand next to Blake Snell and Logan Webb and Robbie Ray in Dodger Stadium and feel that environment, because that's what they're going to need him to do going forward? You watch. They're going to use this guy. Here comes Michael Bauman. It's 3-3 in the 7th inning. Like, really? I get it. Everybody's taxed and you want an extra reliever. You know? But here's the wild thing. Watch this. Watch this. Birdsong's going to get sent out today, and Michael Bauman will get activated. What are you doing Wednesday when Robbie Ray needs to come? You going to send Bauman right out? So are you sending Hayden Birdsong out so that you can flank your bullpen with an extra arm that you honestly don't even really want to use? They don't want to use Michael Bauman in a leverage situation. And guess what? With this team against the Dodgers, all of the situations are leverage situations. I don't care if you're up 6-1, that's a leverage situation. Miller, Walker, Rogers, Bauman, Doval,
Bauman.
Maybe some jelly. Because Jam don't shake like that. That's it. That's who you need in this series. Michael,
He'll be pitching for his third team this year. I like the player, Mark. 35 appearances, ERA of 4.41. Pretty good on this team. He pitched 17 times for Baltimore, 18 times for Seattle. He's well-traveled, Mark. 6'4", 240.
I mean,
they need some size.
I got another question here. So wait a minute. Everyone's going, well, hang on. He might be back because the doubleheader allows for an extra roster spot. I don't need an extra roster spot. I don't need an extra roster spot for Hayden Birdsong. He's in the damn rotation. You know, what about Robbie Ray? Bye, Jordan Hicks. You're now in the bullpen. There's your extra bullpen arm. His name is Jordan Hicks. There you go. He goes to the bullpen. Like, Hayden Birdsong should at minimum still be in the rotation until Alex Cobb arrives. And even then, we got questions. We got questions that need to be answered. How does Robbie Ray look? This is his first big league game in over a year, and it's at Dodger Stadium. I get that he's a Cy Young Award winner. I get that he's Robbie Ray. So if you're going to say no, clear runway there. He's got a spot. All right. You're in this desperate of a situation that you're boiling down the future of your organization to 7 days. And you're going to send out Hayden Birdsong in favor of Alex Cobb, or quite frankly, even Kyle Harrison, to me. Should not be a short, like every game is absolutely imperative, right?
It's huge, yeah.
So is Birdsong one of your best 5 starters or not?
He is.
Then he's pitching.
On Saturday. We'll throw him on Saturday.
And the next week, too.
Yes. And so when you get to that spot, you will find the corresponding move at that juncture to make with your 40-man roster. It's an ongoing shuffle. My problem is more with the optics. And what you were saying, I think, is a very good point about what could he learn by being at Dodger Stadium in the dugout next to some of the vets to really feel, to sit alongside Logan Webb and have Logan be able to tell him about the Giant-Dodger rivalry in his nascent career as a 22-year-old. What could he learn as a Giant? And you would hope that Hayden Birdsong is a part of the future of the Giants. He sure has looked like more of a prospect than we would have thought earlier in the year. He's looked great. So What could he have gotten just by being there through osmosis, being at Dodger Stadium for 4 games in the dugout, and now he won't have that opportunity?
I don't know.
That part's too bad.
And
the optics of it and the rest of it.
This is just it's like deflating. It's super deflating. You see something like that yesterday. If you're truly a fan, you watched that yesterday. It's inspiring. Hayden Birdsong looks 12 years old, and he's struck 12 batters out. One for every year of his life. One for every candle on the cake. In Colorado, he threw a curve that danced. That was huge.
Needed a stopper performance after dropping the first 2, and he was
the stopper that none of your veterans have been. And this is his present. I don't know, man. Like, I think sometimes you got to go a man short so that you can attaboy the people around you.
Do the right thing for the wrong reasons.
Oh, I mean, we're sitting here talking about this big and small, whether it's Kuminga, whether it's Ayuk, whether it's Klay Thompson, and now Hayden Birdsong. And these situations are all completely different. This one would have been pretty cheap. You know what I mean? I get it. If the Niners don't want to give Brandon Ayuk $30 million and get married for 5 years, that's different. That's different. Could you just go with the bullpen that you've got for the next 2 days so that Hayden Birdsong, after striking out 12 in 6 innings at Coors Field, could be with his teammates at Dodger Stadium for his first opportunity to do that, and someone that I would hope right now has the look of someone that could be a real rotation piece for years to come. I don't know, man. You've had so few things the last 3 years get the attention of the fan and make them feel good about the young players that come up. They come up, maybe they've got a cup of coffee, and then it goes away and you're like, whatever. Casey Schmidt, Luis Matos. This guy's getting better. He's arrow up, and he went and won a game that you absolutely had to have. We've turned this into a mini season. The area between the break and the deadline.
11 games.
It was 14 games.
Yep.
You're off to a horrible start. Thank goodness for this kid, it's not even worse. And that's how you react? You got, like, I don't know, man. Don't you look in the mirror before you make moves like this and think about how this is going to land with the people?
No, you don't. And that is the biggest criticism of Farhan Zaidi in the front office, because you and I know the baseball rules and the extra player for a doubleheader and the 40-man roster and all the other machinations, because we follow this stuff super close. If you're a more casual fan and you see Hayden Birdsong pitch and you see him strike out 12 and the next day he gets optioned out to AAA, you don't understand it. And all you think is, what the hell? And you have resentment over the fact that a guy you're just starting to get to know, a 22-year-old, he turns 23 in a month, and he looks like he might be a part of the future of this team, and you play great, and your reward is you get sent out. That's terrible optics. And I don't think that, I'm sure that Farhan's aware of it on some level, but he's more interested in doing the right thing roster-wise. So you make a trade with Seattle, you acquire a guy who's already been on 2 different teams this year, and he's the epitome of a mediocre pitcher. He's got a 4.4 ERA, over 32 appearances for 2 different teams. So 2 different franchises this year have said, we're good without you. And so he's been traded twice this year, and now you're going to acquire him and immediately put him in for your 22-year-old who's pitching great. It's terrible optics.
Yep.
And it is demoralizing. I think that's the word you used earlier.
It's absolutely demoralizing. I said deflating, but it's all of that.
Yeah.
And I don't even need to ask any of the players how they feel about it in the clubhouse. They're pissed. I promise you that. I promise you. They're looking at each other right now as they arrive in the clubhouse, maybe for a game of Pusoy Dos. And they're looking at each other. Can you believe these guys? You believe this? And this is what I have not been able to put my finger on now for the better part of 3 years, which is somehow, some way, the Giants organization went from something that had such a vibe. Do you remember that like the first, when I really went off on the Giants after the Dodgers series Well, it feels like this was a couple months ago now, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah, when the park here was full of blue. It was all blue.
And I kept saying to you, it wasn't the standings. It wasn't about the standings. There was plenty of time in the standings. There's now no longer plenty of time in the standings. But anyway, it wasn't the standings. It was the feel. It was what you've let this organization become. And that's what gets me. I can still look at Farhan Zaidi moves from an X's and O's standpoint, even this one. And I'm like, yeah, I understand what you're doing, but you've got to do a cost-benefit analysis before you make these moves. And the Giants went from a decade ago being the most feel-good thing that existed in Bay Area sports. This was prior to the Warrior dynasty starting. But going to a Giants game when it was Buster and Brandon and Timmy and Madison and Matty and Pablo and the manager and the core four, like all of that was happening, and you could just put your fingers on it. You could touch that. You could feel it, and it felt so good. Felt like a gift on Valentine's Day. Like that was such a connection. And you have found a way to turn and burn all of that into this, into Hayden Birdsong for Mike Baumann. Because, need an extra arm Monday and Tuesday. It's so robotic and devastating. It is so formulaic. And you can't run businesses that way exclusively. Yes, you have to be smart. Yes, you have to make tough decisions. And yes, sometimes they hurt. But it feels like it's the only pitch that the Giants front office throws. They throw the non-human angle, formulaic, X's and O's. We need an extra 5 fingers for our Monday night game against the Dodgers. They do that every time. They do it every time. And then they sit there and shrug their shoulders and go, God, I don't know why anybody doesn't want to come join us. How come nobody wants to come join us? Our cavernous 425-foot power alleys and all of the fun that we're having as guys sit in the bullpen and wonder how the hell they ended up out there because they were promised a starting job. They just scratched their head. Boy, we offered them money and they said no. Well, we can't figure out why.
Can't figure it out. Yeah.
Because you're robots.
That's right. And if you are a player who's looking for a destination and you see the way things have been done in this regime of, players in, players out, you're a starter, now you're getting pinch hit for and all the rest of it, and, you're going to go 5 innings and whatever, it's hard to really, even as a player, sink your teeth into wanting to be here. And now you see Hayden Birdsong strike out 12 on a Sunday and get optioned out on a Monday for a guy who's been designated for assignment twice so far this year, and he's been traded twice. And, Mike Baumann might come on and be a good reliever
maybe
for the Giants. Yeah. It's not even about him. It's about the process. And you and I always talk about process versus results. The result of this might be he gets a couple of big outs tonight in a gutsy 2-1 win over LA.
Might be.
That's great. But it's the process that's the problem. And you're right about, the fans, and even as a player, you see one of your young teammates go out there and ball out and get you a much-needed win in Colorado, and his reward is a bus ticket to Sacramento. That's got to be deflating and demoralizing for the Giants in that clubhouse. And as a fan, it makes you scratch your head and wonder why you would even support this regime.
He's 22 years old, and he set a record yesterday. That is the most strikeouts that any Giants pitcher has ever recorded at Coors Field. And checks notes, lots of Giants pitchers throw lots of innings at Coors Field. And he set a record. He is 22 years old. And boy, those cheeks, you could just squeeze them. And you'll never sell to me that he nodded his head and he was cool with this. I don't care what you're saying. There's no way in hell that he went to bed last night thinking that this is what he was going to wake up to. And if he did go to bed last night thinking that this was what was going to go on, that means you told him last night. That makes you an even worse person. because Hayden, I hope, was having margaritas last night on the flight, because that's what he should be doing. He should
have a chance to celebrate.
Yeah, celebrate, dude. You just did something, and you don't need to work again for 5 days. So here you go. Man, you want a beer?
Totally.
That's what should be going on. Instead, he's sitting here wondering if he might get to come back.
He's coming back. He knows he's coming back. But
that's not the point.
No, the point is the way you go about dealing with it. And, you got to make a move because you got Bauman and you need an extra arm. You need to have somebody ready to go.
You don't got to make a move.
Oh, you got to have an arm, Mark.
They got arms.
You may need those outs. 6'4", 240. I like the player.
You want Mike Bauman? DFA Luke Jackson. If this game's so flippin' important and you just cannot have any wasted space on the roster, you cannot. We got to get every out. The whole season's riding on this series. Fine. Get Luke the hell out of here because he can't get out. He can't even throw a curveball that gets to home plate. You need a roster spot? There's your roster spot.
That's an expensive. It's an expensive out. $6.5 million. And he's got a $2 million player option next year. It's a lot of money, Mark.
I'm sorry. This is about money now?
Well, you don't want to have to eat, and I guess that would be eating about 2.3 this year, and that's a $4 million eat. Or you could Hayden Birdsong your way to Sacramento for nothing.
A $4 million eat? They made that in pizza last weekend.
Those pizzas are good.
They are. My son loves them. He won't eat anything else at the ballpark.
Like $22 or something.
Tony's Pizza, right
Not
field
cheap.
line.
Yeah.
Turns out there's one over there on the third base side, too.
Luke's making $6.5 million this year.
I don't care.
Which means you owe him about 2.2 left and $2 million next year.
Great. Eat it. I don't care. Eat it.
Or how much is a bus trip from Denver to Sacramento? You get him on Amtrak for about $200.
What does $4 million matter if he can't get outs? What are you paying for? What are you paying for? What is the $4 million for?
For Luke?
Outs.
He can eat innings.
Don't need to eat innings.
He's gotten some people out this year.
There's a couple of them.
Here and there.
We're sponsored by Safeway. That's very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
That's just a terrible, terrible idea. You sent out Hayden Birdsong? You got to be kidding me.